Thank you for coming. What I've done is collected jokes. I do this partly as a repentance so that I have something to share besides what I usually share to my email list. I usually share projections of what's going to happen in the world, the possibilities of nuclear war, the possibilities of disastrous climate change, great social inequality and unrest. And I'm sure that many people who might agree in those, with the severity of those things, get tired of receiving my emails about them. And as a repentance, I sometimes share something that has nothing to do with those problems, just taking the time out for a moment to laugh. So, I'm going to start, since I'm a teacher, I'll start with something that's about a teacher. This is a guy who was in a supermarket. He notices a woman who seems to be noticing him. And he said, excuse me, do you know me? And she says, yes, I'm the father of one of your kids. He says, gulp. And he thinks this is the one time that he's ever been unfaithful to his wife. He says, were you the stripper who came to my bachelor party? We had this wild party. Everybody got drunk. We had sex on the pool table. And then they wound up hitting me over the butt with a wet celery. And she says, no, I'm your son's teacher. This is another one from school situation where kindergarten teacher has a young kid in the class, a boy who's squirming around tremendously, and she says, excuse me, Johnny, do you have to go to the boys' room? Yes. So she sends him out the doorway, points him down the hall. He comes back, and he's still squirming terribly uncomfortably. He says, well, I can't leave the whole class here. You go out here, this is your right hand. You go down past the door there. On your right side, you're going to find a little boy's room. And he goes again, and comes back. He's still struggling uncomfortably, and I can't find it. So she finally winds up sending another kid with him, and this kid takes him to the bathroom. They get back finally, and everything seems to be okay. And she said, what was the matter? He says, oh, it's okay. He just had his pants on backwards. This is really nothing to do with teaching specifically, but I had just heard this recently about a guy who went to the doctor, and the doctor examined him and said, there's a suppository in your ear. A suppository in your ear. And the guy says, oh, now I know what I did with my hearing aid. I'll let Dale help me with this. This is a little bit longer. This is about a woman who hears something on the radio and feels an immediate need to call her husband. I know you're driving home, and I want you to be extra careful. There's somebody driving the wrong way on the highway where you're driving. And he says, I know. There's 40 of them.
This one claims to...
A guy named Jake who notifies his friends that he's taking a trip to Israel, and all of his Jewish friends say, this is really unusual for you. If you suddenly get religion, you don't even celebrate Passover. How come you're taking a trip to Israel? He said, well, this is a nature trip. Say, what do you mean a nature trip? A nature trip, you go to Kenya. No, this is really a nature trip. They took us out in a desert area. I even got to ride on a camel. Well, tell me, Jake, was this a one-hump camel or a two-hump camel? This is a two-hump camel. I was in between the two humps, hanging on for dear life, really scared. They said, well, tell me, Jake, was this a male camel or a female camel? And he says, well, I think this was a male camel. I could hear the people down on the ground saying, look at the schmuck on that camel. This is about another trip to Israel. This is by a wealthy banker. He is really very well known, and he comes into a major bank office and he wants to get a loan for $15,000 for the week that he's going to be spending in Israel. And the manager says, well, of course, but for everybody we need to have some collateral. So he takes out the keys from his Lamborghini. He says, will this do for collateral? Oh yes. They take the keys, he goes on his trip, comes back, and he has to pay the interest on the loan, which is $15. And the bank official asked him, how come someone so wealthy and famous is taking her loan out for a trip. And he says, where else could I find a place to park for $15 in New York? Tell you a situation about a marriage that was going a little bit sour, and the man came to get advice from his doctor. Says, my wife is sort of despondent all the time, and we don't have much in common, and life is pretty dull. And the doctor says, well, how is your sex life going? Oh, we don't bother with that anymore. He said, well, let's try it out. Maybe this is the problem. What I want you to do is to systematically engage in sexual activity. Just put it down, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You're gonna let your wife have sex. And the guy says, oh, well, that should be okay. Monday and Wednesday, I could drive her there. Friday, she'll have to take an Uber. So the doctor says, no, you're missing the idea. This should be spontaneous. This should be just on impulse. You should feel excited about it. So he said, okay, we'll try that. And comes back to the doctor afterwards. The doctor asks him, how did that work? And he says, oh, worked pretty good. Says, were there any after effects? Well, we can't go to Howard Johnson's anymore. I'll tell you some ways that older people have to justify their shortness of memory. There were two women driving in a car, and the car comes up to a red light, and they drive right through it without stopping. And the passengers really concerned about this, and they come to a second red light. And again, the passenger is really concerned, gritting her teeth, and they ride through it again. And now they're coming up to a big intersection. And the passenger can't keep quiet, and she said, Mildred, do you realize we just drove through two red lights, and we're coming to a big intersection? And the woman says, oh shit, was I driving? There's another circumstance in which a woman is was at a gathering, and there's a friend of hers, and she says, "Excuse me, you have to forgive me, I'm having memory problems. I've known you for so long, but I just can't remember your name. Could you please just remind me, tell me your name?" And the other woman waits a minute and says, "When do you have to know?" So in that same line, there's a case of 3 elderly sisters living at home. The oldest of them calls down from upstairs and she says, "Help! I'm at the bathtub. I can't remember whether I'm going into the bath or whether I just got out of the bath." And then the next oldest one says, "Oh my gosh, I'll come and help you." But she doesn't arrive. "Where are you?" She says, "I'm at the bottom of the stairs. I can't remember whether I just came down the stairs or whether I was going up the stairs." And the third one says, "My gosh, I'm glad I'm not at that stage yet. Knock wood. I'll go and help you as soon as I see who's at the door." And he's feeling sorry for the parrot. The parrot is very grateful and wants to learn everything. And the guy prays every day, and the parrot learns the prayers. And the guy is going out on the Sabbath to the synagogue. And the parrot says, "Where are you going?" He says, I'm going to the synagogue to pray." "Well, take me. I could pray." And he said, "That will never do. They're never going to accept a bird in the synagogue." He says, "Oh, please, I'll be good. Take me." So he brings the parrot there, and he says, "This parrot can pray." "You have to let us in." And they say, "It's nonsense, the parrot can't pray." "What are the odds?" "Well, I'll give you 10-to-1 odds." And they bring in the parrot, and the parrot is supposed to be praying, and instead the parrot sits silently through. And they come home and the guy is embarrassed. "I lost money on you. I promised that you were going to pray. What happened?" And the parrot says, "Don't be a schmuck. Think about the odds we're going to get on Passover." Okay. Thanks so much.